What's up, everybody? I'm Josh Meek, the Uber Geek. Welcome to Pretty Dece Director's Cut. This is episode 3. This is the show where we do a deep dive on some of the entertainment and pop culture news and topics of the past couple weeks or so since the last time we did an episode. We can spend some more time on it, talk in depth a bit more than the normal Pretty Dece episodes. And on this episode of Director's Cut, I am joined by my usual cohorts. We've got Scott. What's up, Scott?
Hey, how's it going?
And Ross is here. How's it going, Ross?
Greetings.
Greetings. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a little bit since we've done this, since I was away on vacation for a while, but it's good to be sitting back down, back around the virtual boardroom table that I imagine that we do these at.
Indeed, you look refreshed.
Well, thank you.
You look great.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have this experience or not, but like, I think everyone does. I think it's a universal human thing. You need to go on vacation to get refreshed, right? It's like, I just need a break. You get a break, you feel good, and then you come back and like the day one back undoes all of the relaxation.
Oh no! Don't tell me that. I have that tomorrow. This is the last day of my staycation, and tomorrow I'm back to work. Don't say that.
I was gone on vacation for 2 weeks, which is a luxurious amount of time to be on vacation. Which it's amazing that I have the opportunity to take 2-week-long vacations sometimes. But then I am just naturally like an anxious person, and having been gone from work for that long becomes this like super anxious, like build up, like ball of stress for some reason. I'm just like, what has happened since I've been gone? Like, did everything burn down? Like, what's going on? And, yeah, like that last day or so is always terrible. And then, yeah, then like remembering that like, oh, you have to get up and then, like, be here for, like, 8 hours a day every day.
Oh, I still got to do that? All right.
Like, oh, we didn't change the hours while I was gone? Yeah. But no, I'm back in the swing of daily life now, and it's happening, which is good. So anyway, since the last time we talked, we've all been getting into some stuff, so it'd probably be good to just do a general, like, what you've been playing, what you've been watching, like what sort of geeky, nerdy, entertainment-y things have you been getting into since our last episode. So, Ross, why don't you kick things off? What's been new on your plate that you've been into?
So, I've kind of, I haven't had a ton of time, but I've really enjoyed the time that I've had to dive into a couple things. The first being, so I think I told you and everybody that I got a Switch at some point.
Yep.
And I was perusing the different games that were on the Switch. I've since taken a cannonball into Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Nice.
And that has been really satisfying from somebody that has played a few Zelda games, but not like every Zelda title that's come out. And just the new take on the traditional formula has been really fun. I think I texted Scott this maybe last week and said, like, I finally filled in the map, which was a very cathartic, like, I don't know, de-stressing sort of experience.
Yep.
Not that I was like super stressed about a video game, but it just like felt good to see that like last big square fill in.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I finally made it over that place, because it takes you like 4 years to walk across that map, because I'm not going to catch a horse, that's for sure.
It is shocking how long it took me to fill the map up. Like, I played for so many hours of that game before I was even close to finishing just like the map. Yeah.
And I kind of liked it though. Like, I liked that it took. I guess when I was working through the story, I didn't feel a big pressure, and so it was an achievement. It was oh my gosh, I did it.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. The build up getting to it. You know, so many of the games that we kind of roll through, there's this push to get to end game content.
Yeah.
And I thought for Zelda, I really did enjoy the journey to get there. Like, it really was fun trying to build up different armor pieces and the goal wasn't, gosh, I need to unlock all the map. It's, gosh, I need to see what's over that hill. What's over that hill over there?
Yeah.
And
yeah. I think
how do I get
that exploration? Yeah, definitely was more the goal than actually, beating the game, which is so rare for a game that just like knowing what's out there in the world is like enough of an incentive to keep playing. Like, that doesn't happen very often.
Exactly. And I've been playing with like my girlfriend and I have been playing in parallel with one another. Sometimes like I'll sit and watch her play, and sometimes she'll sit and watch me play, but often like so on the weekends I normally play Xbox with Scott and a couple of other people. And so while I do that, she plays Zelda. And so like, I come back and I see her, I was like, where did you get that? Like, I didn't even know that existed. Like, she got the full rubber armor set. And I was like, I had not stumbled upon that at all, because I hadn't like taken that explore. I'm very much an objective based person. And while I don't need like the arrow over it, I need to know like, okay, so I'm trying to beat this boss and that boss does electric damage. So I need to have like water weapons or whatever.
Yeah.
In any other game. And so like I will just do what needs to be done so I can beat the next big objective. Whereas she's like, oh, I climbed that rock. It took me a long time, but I did it. And I found this thing on top of it. Oh, I should probably do more of that. So I tried to expand and get into like, instead of grinding at the very beginning of a game, to so that you're leveled enough to be competitive and can feel a little bit BA as you roll around the map. I normally do that at the beginning, and then it trails to like, I just want to get it done, and I'm having to like distribute that grindiness across the game, which is different for me, and I'm trying to enjoying little pockets of it as I go.
Yeah,
so I've really enjoyed Zelda Breath of the Wild the last, 3 weeks or so since we last had this.
Nice. Yeah, I with that game, I was so much in the, okay, I'm just going to set off in the world and not follow these objectives for a while and just kind of see what's out there, that I think I missed some of the like very early like tutorial type stuff, like way early on in the game. I think that they intend you to sort of walk down this like one path and end up in this one town that's supposed to like introduce you to like a couple key concepts. Because I remember there was a point like way late in the game that I was reading something online about Zelda. I'm like, I've never even heard of that. I don't even know what that is. And it's something very simple. Then I was like reading about it. I'm like, oh yeah, you should have done this right at the very beginning. I'm like, nope, didn't. So I think like, when I started that game,
I was taking a right.
Right. I think that's what it was. I think I like literally just climbed a mountain and decided like, I'm going off on my own.
Didn't know you could cook.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was it was something like super simple though. Having to do with kind of like the first town that you would have ended up in, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, there was something like very fundamental to the game that I just like didn't even know was a thing. But it's cool that I could miss that, right? Like it's really neat that that I was able to just kind of go off and do my own thing. So that's awesome, Ross. That's great.
So I've really enjoyed that. And then like TV show wise, I realized that I'm super behind the times based on the actors that are in this show. But Netflix has on Penny Dreadful, which is a Showtime show about kind of the classic literature heroes and villains. So like Dracula and Frankenstein, Dorian Gray, kind of things from classic, kind of a good version of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
How dare you?
Which I think I've expressed in some fashion at some point or another in my podcasting career. Is that like is really good from an inspirational point of view, but the execution doesn't always go well when you try to incorporate all of these different elements of like, well, it should fit because we're talking like classic London, 1800s, kind of a steampunkish sort of vibe. Like Frankenstein and Dracula should all fit together, right? Like Alan Quatermain and Tom Sawyer, like, yeah, those are kind of folklore-ish. They should work, and they don't always. It does not go well at most times. This one doesn't seem too bad. It's got Timothy Dalton in it, which is really refreshing from someone that used to watch old 007.
Nice.
Films with my dad. Like, Timothy Dalton isn't my favorite Bond, but he does a respectable job as Bond. He plays a...
you do a respectable Bond, sir.
Right? He does a respectable Bond. Like, I can buy that he's James Bond and in everything that character entails. And in this, he plays like a British... Maybe not a nobleman, but one of those people that like went to Africa for adventures and things. And so he kind of has this like shrouded past if he went to, quote unquote, the unknown jungle and came back with stories and things. And they're like tackling this supernatural phenomena that occurs in London now, and all of these different things. Ava Green is in it, and I really liked her. So apparently the theme for this episode is going to be Ross's ties to James Bond. But anyway, Ava Green being my first introduction to her was as the Bond girl in not Bond girl kind of diminishes that role. She was in the reboot Casino Royale.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's where I know her from.
She was Vesper in that, and I really enjoyed her there. And I've like seen her pop up in other things. She was in Sin City, the second one, I think. And she was also in the really crappy 600.
Oh,
she's always a very intense, like very strong female lead character, and I enjoy her. So she plays a medium who has some issues.
Great.
Yeah, she's kind of interesting, and I'm like maybe 8 episodes into that and really enjoying that. It's not one that the girlfriend enjoys, so I watch it when she's not around because she's just like, why are we watching this?
Oh,
we are watching this because there's the American that's alone in London who's played by Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Oh my God! I didn't know he did anything after Pearl Harbor. I thought he went into hiding.
No, he's a fairly successful actor.
But he was good in this show. Like sorry, just to jump in for a second, but I really, I think the thing that I really got sucked into the show as well. Looking back on it now, you put it on the list. I'm like, I need to look at it. But the thing that I really liked was that a lot of ensemble type shows do this episode is a so-and-so episode, and we kind of dive into lore and backstory, and a lot of times it feels like just kind of filler, like we need to have this in order to move the story forward, but I don't necessarily care very much, or you haven't given me a reason to care. But all of the characters in that show I really enjoyed. I really liked how they built them up, and I wanted to know more. And just about the time I was like, we haven't heard from so-and-so in a while. And then suddenly I've got an episode about why they're in debt and they've got to pay back. So, we're finding out more motivations. We're discovering things about the character that, oh my gosh, totally fit. Oh, that's why they had this particular scene. I didn't realize. It's adding to the forward momentum of the story, but still getting to go backwards and look at it. That was a fun show. I really liked it.
Is it scary? Because the poster looks very scary.
It's a little scary.
Okay.
Parts of it can be kind of dark and scary.
It has the poster is like really well done. It's someone like kind of hunched over, holding their head on their knees, and they have their hands over their head, and it forms a skull. So like from kind of far away, it looks like a skull, but then you actually like look at it, and it's a person. That's really wild.
And I don't know, it did a really nice thing of introducing the characters, and I didn't realize what it was. Like, it didn't hit you in the face with like, oh, this is going to bring together like classic horror tropes.
Yeah. Because I've heard the name of the show and didn't know that, so that's cool.
Unfolds into it of like, oh, okay, so Frankenstein's character is a great example. They bring him in, and he's just like sort of this like medical coroner autopsy person that they get to do something. Like, they need his services for a particular.
Okay.
He starts talking at the end. They do that thing where they're getting ready to leave. It's like, oh, like, I never caught your name. He's like, oh, like, it's Victor, like Victor Frankenstein. Like, oh.
that old trope.
It's very organic feeling. It's not like the audience has figured it out before the characters, which is always frustrating when it's like, oh my God, clearly it's obvious what they're trying to do. Why are we still why are we going through this charade? Like, just get to the point already. I haven't felt that way with this show. It's been very surprising. There have been some episodes that have been a little slow, but I've really enjoyed it overall.
Yeah. I feel like that's hard. Revealing things right at the point the audience would find it out. Like, that's like really challenging to understand, like, when things are obvious, because you're writing it, you understand exactly who people are gonna be. when you start out. So that's cool.
That's-
I've only heard the name of that show. I didn't know anything about it. I've never watched any of it, so I'll have to check it out.
So it was one that I like when I was in my forced exile in the summer. I kept trying to never work onto like an iPad or a computer, so I kept trying because it just looked interesting based on the cast. And now I finally get time to watch it, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. They did something really neat with Frankenstein's story. Like you're going through and it's like, why is it working that? Oh my God, that's why it's working with it. Oh, it makes so much sense.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
I would recommend it.
Okay, I'll check it out. Sounds very cool. Anything else you got going on?
So this last week, and I haven't gotten to play it much, but Scott and I played a little bit yesterday, which is the Sea of Thieves launched.
Oh yeah.
To mixed reviews, it seems. So after playing yesterday, I finally allowed myself to kind of read some of the but the normal reviews. So like a little bit of IGN, a little bit of Forbes, a little bit of GameSpot, just to see what people were thinking with it. And I can definitely understand some of the criticisms of the game, but I'm going into it with it seems like oftentimes with video games, especially nowadays, it becomes like, okay, and we've talked about this where I'm a Destiny player, I'm a Fortnite player, or I'm a WoW player.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely a game where it's to me, it's a very palate cleansing game where it's like, okay, so we just like spent 3 hours grinding out this raid or doing this, challenge. Like, you guys just want to go and like sail around and be stupid for like 2 hours. Maybe it won't take up the entire evening, but it'll be just kind of a, shake it out little thing. I'm like, guys, I fell off the ship. I don't really know how, but like I fell off the ship. And as Scott does some little curly things, I try to turn around and get like, no, you're going away from me. Where are you? I don't even know. Like just dumb stuff that may or may not have happened.
That's awesome.
Like, Scott, I was trying to do this thing, and I definitely fell off the ship. What do you mean you fell off the ship? Yeah, I fell off the ship.
Perfect.
So I'm enjoying it. I understand that some of the criticisms are it is just an elaborate series of fetch quests, but that kind of works when the world is beautiful and you have shenanigans you can get into on your own.
Yeah, I think that goes a pretty long ways, and it just it comes down to, is that enough for you or is it not?
Yeah. Like I can understand how some of the streamers and people that want to be dedicated to a game as like that like to dive into a game, find all the nooks and crannies, and do all of the things, and then move on to the next title.
Yeah.
Why this might not be a satisfying thing for them. I don't even know if they plan on evolving it. It could definitely grow. There's a lot of potential with the game, and how in the world of feeling like a perpetual beta tester, it might not feel satisfying. But I think if you go into it with an open mind and just kind of like, not low expectations, but just like going in to have the activity be the satisfying component.
Yeah.
And not so much like getting that armor set or beating that boss, then maybe this would be a nice game to just kind of like chill out. And if you have 4K capability, it does look pretty gorgeous in it. I saw it in 4K at like a Best Buy or something.
Ooh, nice.
And it is quite stunning when you have
I imagine with the water and stuff.
Hardware.
Yeah, that looks pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, best water simulator out there.
I do, just to kind of echo what Ross said, I really think that I've been enjoying what I've done so far. Having played the beta, they have added a few things, which is good.
Okay, so there's a bit more.
A little bit. I mean, I felt like a lot of the beta was here, go do this one thing and come back.
Yeah.
And now we've got a little bit of here's a task, here's a second task, here's a different type of task, a little bit more combat related. Here's not just dig something up, but here, go collect some chickens, go collect some pigs, there's a
good,
a little bit,
at least.
They've added a little bit, but I am curious about what's next. I think they've got some hooks into some people. I think it's got some potential. And I think if they stopped it today, it would be a little bit of a disappointment, but I think they have the chance to do something. Show me what's next. Show me the next, how you're going to develop the game going forward. You know, you've got a really good base, a really fun, at least for our group, let's pour a couple of drinks for ourselves, IRL. let's group up on a Friday night and have a good time and have some laughs and drink in real life, drink in game, and do a couple of silly quests, and that'll be good for a couple of weeks, for a month, for a quarter, and then what's the next thing? You know, if the next thing isn't anything, I think it'll qualify as a little bit of a disappointment. But if they can move the needle, if they can do something to push the game out, I think it could be fun.
It kind of sounds.
Go
ahead.
Sorry.
Russell. No, go ahead.
There's actually like some skill involved, which seems really dumb for a game that's like very cartoonish and not in the same way like Fortnite has a stylized art to it, or like a Borderlands, which is like comic booky feeling. Like this does feel very animated and bright and could be kind of. There's actually some skill things that need to be done, and coordinating. Part of the challenge is coordinating with your team. Like the 2-man boat, I can do pretty well. You can either do it by yourself or you can do it with another player.
Yeah.
And working together, you can do lots of things. But like, it's a completely different beast when you move to 4 people. Another friend of mine and I, like, we had the 2-man thing down. Like, knew what the jobs were and what we were doing, and it was pretty much like clicking along. And we played with Scott and another person in the clan that we're in. And it was just like, whoa, like this is a completely different beast. So like some of that is just figuring out how to do like a fetch quest, while seemingly dumb, is plenty challenging in this game.
Yeah.
To me, it kind of sounds like it's a situation like the original Assassin's Creed was, where they came up with a really awesome idea, and then they made a somewhat bare bones game around it, where you know, there's really cool stuff going on in that first Assassin's Creed, but then you end up doing the same thing kind of over and over again. And in the case of Assassin's Creed, right, like that game's old enough and it's single player that like they had to iterate on it by coming out with a sequel, and then they did, and it was so much better. They had all this crazy new stuff, and like they took all those ideas, all those mechanics, and just doubled down on them, iterated on them, built on them. So it sounds like they kind of need to do the same thing of like, okay, we've got a bunch of really core, fun stuff. Let's just add more, you know, keep fleshing it out, more stuff to do, more stuff to get. And yeah, they can do that with updates, right? Like it doesn't have to be Sea of Thieves 2. It can be Sea of Thieves, you know, like patch 2 or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that they could win over the hearts of some of the fans if it then is just like oh yeah, like you bought the base game. There's no like paid DLC for X amount of time. Like Titanfall's done, where it's just like, oh yeah, like here's an update. You go do this stuff. Like just do it. And I think what it's missing compared, like Assassin's Creed, I think is a very apt analogy for like comparison for this game. But what it's missing is that like the story hooked me with Assassin's Creed. So yes, I was going and like, you have to collect intel, and then you have to sneak around, and then you actually get to assassinate the dude.
Yeah.
But like you were feeding into this like story arc where a bit of this game is kind of old school, and like you get to create the purpose for you being there.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to get to the next like 30-minute cutscene in Sea of Thieves.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's missing a little bit, but if they would do like special weekends or challenges of like, oh, there's, you know, the great white whale is out this weekend, and that presents a different set of challenges, you know, if you like navigating and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot that they could do. They just now have a very polished sandbox that they haven't quite filled with fun trucks.
All the fun toys and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
It almost sounds like if they did like sort of a Hitman style, like elusive target, like this is time limited, it's out there in the world now, like go get it, like that'd be
go
really
get
cool.
Blackbeard. He's roaming the seas between now and April 1st.
Yes.
Yeah, that
It's gonna be
instantly sounds like more
bring
of a
your
hook.
friends. Yeah.
And I think that's what might be missing for me anyway. So they kind of, to me, it feels like they've drawn a little bit of inspiration off of the Division's Dark Zone, which is a player versus player region of this like largely PvE game.
Mm-hmm.
And so any like ship that you come across is going to be manned by real players in this game. And what I would like to see is this blend of like the Halo 5, battle zone where it's, PvE and PvP. Because like, to be quite frank, the PvP players in this are kind of jerks.
Yeah, you kind of you want people that you can like dunk on before you get to the real humans that are just going to dunk on you, right?
Yeah, and like a way to distinguish them in some in some fashion, which is like, okay, so you have your little spyglass and you're looking like, oh, okay, so there's like an NPC character that we need to hunt down over there. Like we can take yes, it's a bigger ship, but we could take it with our
it's a
small
yellow
fleet
flag, not a white
if
flag.
we did it right.
Yeah.
Versus like if you're rolling in a 4-man crew and you just have like a tiny boat, like your best hope is to pray that you can get away.
Yeah.
Where like there's no way, like they're just going to trounce you and then keep trouncing you, and then you get to hear about like the promiscuity of your mother over the group chat, and you can have proximity chat, and you can definitely. I found out very specific things about very specific family members.
You guys
over the last couple days from a variety of age groups. It seems like.
How exciting! You know what?
Yes.
It's very authentic to the pirate-ness of it. That's how it works.
They're really committed.
They're trying to bring that realism into the.
Everyone knows that all the pirates they roamed the seven
Pirates
seas.
We all know
and spawn camped, right? Like that was the pirates invented spawn camping.
It's a legitimate strategy.
That's how they got all those ships. That's how they got all that booty. They had to spawn camp all the British. It's definitely a game like the beta really turned me off, but I think that it would be still super fun to like play with you guys and stuff. So it's still a game that I might pick up eventually, especially keeping an eye on like updates and stuff that they do to it that I can see myself like circling back around to at some point. But I'll keep my eye on it, but I'm still not 100% sure it's a thing for me.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of TV shows, Ross, I've been watching a TV show as well, and that's The Good Place. Have either of you seen any of The Good Place?
I've not. I saw it in the rundown, and I was really curious to what this is.
Okay, so The Good Place is a TV show. I didn't have many expectations going into this. It was just one of those like, okay, I've watched The Office for like the 18th millionth time. I can't start that again on Netflix. I just finished BoJack Horseman. Like, what's left? Like, what does Netflix have that I haven't seen? And I saw The Good Place. So I was like, all right, I'll give this a shot.
The man who has everything.
Basically, yeah. It was to save my marriage so that my wife didn't yell at me for watching The Office again. That's really why I started watching The Good Place. So the premise of The Good Place is that the series focuses on Kristen Bell's character, and her character Eleanor dies. And the series opens where she wakes up and she's essentially in heaven. She's in what they call the good place. And their version of heaven is like, not like, clouds and harps and stuff, but it's like the perfect neighborhood, right? Like everything you ever wanted. Here's your house. Like, everyone's happy. You can go eat your favorite meal at the restaurant anytime you want. So it's all great. And there's like someone running, the like neighborhood that is heaven. It's Ted Danson is the person who plays that character. So he's great, and it's all fine and dandy, except for the fact that Eleanor shouldn't be there. So all of the things that they're telling her that she did, they're like, oh, it was amazing that you did all those humanitarian efforts and like, all these things. And come to find out, that wasn't her. She didn't do any of those things. She was kind of a crappy person. and it was a big mistake that they sent her to the good place. So then while she's in the good place, of course, when you get to the good place, they tell you that, hey, soulmates are real and your soulmate is here. And then they introduce you to them. So she meets her soulmate and like confides in him. Again, it's not her real soulmate because she's not who they think she is. Confides in him like, hey, I'm not who I say I am, because he was a professor of ethics. So the whole kind of premise of season 1 is that Eleanor is trying to learn ethics to become a good person so that she can stay in the good place and like won't be found out. So
to learn ethics.
So that's the premise of the show. So I finished season 1 on Netflix. That's all it's on Netflix. Season 2, I think, just finished airing or is currently airing. There's like 12 episodes of season 2 that have happened so far. So I started watching those on the NBC app, and I'm up to like episode 9 or something of season 2. So I'm almost caught up to current on The Good Place. And I won't spoil anything, but like the change that goes on from season 1 to season 2 is incredible. The thing you find out basically at the end of season 1, which morphs what season 2 is about. Like I've never seen a show take that drastic of a change between seasons. Like it's so inventive, it's so inspired, like what they did with the show.
Even more than Atlanta.
Even more than Atlanta? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I mean, Atlanta, like, it's still sort of like they're still in Atlanta, right? Like,
Okay.
I mean, like, and I'm not saying that they're not in the good place here, but like,
But
I mean, like,
they just like they really switched up the tone for that.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
Atlanta, and so I was just curious as to if this goes even beyond that.
it like the tone is still there. Like, it's still a comedy show, right?
Okay.
But they turn it on its head. And then once season 1 ends, it's kind of turned on its head. You're like, what the heck? So I had to start watching season 2. And then season 2, they turn it on its head like every episode, multiple times an episode again for like the first 4 or 5 episodes. Like it's insane. Like I can't even. Like, I desperately want to have, like, a spoiler-filled discussion about The Good Place at this point because of how...
Sounds
is
like
that going to be our homework
watching so we can have a little side podcast.
Maybe,
about...
yeah. but like, so, like, the show is, like, kind of this weird, fantastical concept that you would think, like, man, how do you write episodes in that, right? Like when you're literally in a world where anything can happen, we can snap our fingers and things pop out of thin air, right? Like you're in the ultimate MacGuffin of a place. How do you have stakes? Like how do you write episodes? And they do an incredible job, and they come up with such clever, inventive things. Like for example, like she's in essentially heaven, so she can't curse. So like the place has like a language filter. So it works well because it's a TV show and she can't curse, but then she's like, she's like son of a birch and things like that, right? Like constantly in the show. So they like mention it one time, and then the rest of the season it's just her coming up with like interesting like TV movie versions of curse words, and it's great. It's funny every time. Ted Danson is hilarious as the person who is like enamored with human behavior but doesn't really understand humans entirely. So there's like hilarious things of like, he wants to try suspenders for the first time because they look so cool and they're so pointless, and he gets so excited that he's trying suspenders, and because he's this like, timeless being and stuff like that. So yeah, the show is great. It's incredibly funny. The cast is fantastic. And season 2 turns the show into like this bizarre kind of Groundhog Day for a while, like thing going on. I can't even. The Good Place is so good. It's so good.
No, check it out.
And yeah, Kristen Bell is awesome. Like huge crush on her. She's great. Yeah,
Nice.
fantastic. So I desperately just need to like say what happens at the end of season 1 to someone so we can just go what together for a while. That's really all I want from us.
Spoiler cast incoming.
Right.
Everyone
Put
listening,
it on the dock.
spoiler cast.
In other things that I've been excited about, just briefly, there's not too much to discuss, but while I was on vacation, I started and finished the first Steam World Dig game, which is something I'd never touched. Like I kind of knew like what it was, but hadn't actually played it. So I played it on my Switch. It's a fantastic travel Switch game because it's really simple and it's not like super twitchy and stuff. So I played it a bunch in the car, and it's like. It's weirdly like super addictive for just being like a game where you are digging down. And it has like the perfect amount of like Metroid-ness where like you unlock further abilities that let you do things that unlock new areas and stuff. It's just a really like clever, really cute game, and it's like I don't know, like 4 to 8 hours long. Like it's a really simple experience. And there's a sequel out, which I'm going to start soon. So, like
Steam World Dig 2. I have heard really good things.
Yeah, I've heard that like it's kind of everything that was in the first.
Tell
one.
me if I need to dig in.
Yeah, I mean, like I wanted to play the first one before jumping into the second one, which is pointless because this really isn't like a big story heavy game. But if it's anything like the first one, like it's going to be super good. So I'm excited to kind of get in there and check it out. I think it'll be cool.
Nice.
And then okay, so other things. I've been getting into Pokemon again in a weird way.
Comes back around.
It circles around in
theme
life.
song is instantly playing in my mind.
Right. So the thing that looped me back in is kind of the card game actually. So I started. I was playing the new like Sun and Moon and was like kind of getting into it. I'm like, oh yeah, Pokemon's really fun. So then I was like kind of looking up the card game. So. You guys might not know this. There's an app for the Pokemon trading card game that is really, really good. It's on PC and it's also on like iPad and stuff. And it's all like free to sign up, and then like you get like booster packs and stuff, and you can play with like theme decks. But you can also, if you buy cards in real life, like actual physical Pokemon cards, they come with codes that you type into the app, and then you unlock the cards in the game. So that's dangerous because now I've bought Pokemon cards. But it's actually really cool. Like if you buy a booster pack, it unlocks a booster pack in the game. If you buy a theme deck, it unlocks that exact theme deck for you to play in the game. So
nice.
It's one of those things that like I wish that all trading card games would go that way. Like if Magic did that, I would literally be in trouble. Like I would have to bar myself from going to the store and buying Magic cards. It would be like it would be a serious financial issue, I think.
Because I mean, we've talked about this where the people that I know that play Magic do not live anywhere near me.
Yeah.
And I am not going to go out and make new friends. That'd be
yeah. Who wants to do that?
New friends. What? What is that?
So, like, this sounds super dangerous, where it's like, oh, you could go out and buy this thing, and then everybody's online, like,
and
I do wonder about the, because you've talked about, sorry, Ross, you've talked about when you were talking about movies, purchasing a movie on one platform, be it a physical DVD or a certain service, and then not transitioning to another, having a QR code that you purchase that you can have transferred to other platforms, like that's, I would be much more interested in different, whatever media, movies, games, having it be available in the different venues, different genres, different.
They kind of do that with movies now, but like the platform they unlock it on is always like they're like terrible, like whatever it is, like Vivo or whatnot. I can't remember the name, but like if you go buy like a Blu-ray in Walmart right now, you can buy the version that like comes with the digital copy, and then you type a code into a website, and you have to go to that terrible website and watch your movie. So it's not like you're not unlocking it on like Amazon or anything nice that you would actually care to watch it, but like that does exist where like you can get the digital with the physical copy. And
It's an
here,
incentive. It sucks to buy it twice.
right, exactly,
It does.
yeah. And you know, like with Magic, like I play, of course, a lot of paper Magic, and then I do a lot of Magic online as well, and it's always double buying, right? Like if I have a card in real life, I have to go buy that card again if I want it, you know, in Magic Online. And this, to some extent, is still that, right? Like if I buy a booster pack and I open 10 cards, and then I use the code, I'm getting a different 10 cards in the game. So my collection is not 1-to-1. But at least I'm getting something for it, right? Like I can
Right.
keep my collection of trading cards fairly equal between the two platforms that I'm playing this game on, you know, real world and the game, which like incentivizes me to play it more in both places, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Because I would think it would let you diversify, right? Like, so let's say you're going for like a grass type deck, and that's what you're shooting for, but you like put in the booster pack code and you start to develop, you know, an electric deck or whatever, and be like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. Like, that's working really well online. Keep with that, or be like, oh, I would really love to play paper with an electric deck, so I'm going to start building an electric deck in real life.
definitely, yeah, definitely.
I would think it would help
It's
diversify or make you
More time.
you're
more
getting a
energy,
one for
more
one,
time
that's just-
spent in their.
exactly.
yeah,
their
in their little like walled garden of spending money.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's really, really smart, and the app is you know, very well done. Like it's super simple. Like, 'cause Pokemon's kind of a simple game. You know, it doesn't have the complexity of like timing that Magic does. It certainly is like, it's still a like strategically complex game. Like you can be good at it. But as far as like game mechanics wise, you can never like interrupt the other player and say, oh, actually I counter that spell, like things like that Magic has, right?
Yeah.
So the app is a very smooth experience. It's very easy to use. And I've just like been super impressed with just like all the little things they've thought of for like keeping you in the world and stuff. So yeah, like weirdly that's like hooking me a lot, is this this Pokemon trading card game. They have a bunch of stuff in the game, right, for like versus play, so you can play other people online and then you get incentives for it. So like, you know, you have like win streak bonuses where you unlock card packs and stuff, and you know, you unlock all these like power-ups where like if you win a bunch, you unlock, you know, promo cards and things like that. And they do a really good job of splitting it up. So like if I only have theme decks, right, if I have a deck that I've unlocked from a deck that I bought in the store, it only matches me up against people who have other theme decks. So like it's an equal power level. But if I decide I'm going to make this awesome custom deck with the cards in my collection and it's like super crazy, then it'll match you up with other people who've done the same. So like you don't have to worry about like, I'm taking my little crappy theme deck online and I'm just going to get smashed by someone who like has built this crazy deck. Which I think is really smart. Other games don't do that. So that's cool. And yeah, like it's weird. Like Pokemon trading card game is a really awesome just online experience. So it's
like 6th grade all over again.
It really is. Yeah.
Nice.
The cards themselves have gotten insane. I don't know if you guys have looked at Pokemon cards in the past, I don't know, 15 years, because you probably wouldn't have had a reason to. But they've went insane. Like there are like EX Pokemon now, and they are these like crazy full art prints where like the Pokemon doesn't just fit in its little text box, it takes up the entire card and you can barely read the text on it because it's like exploding everywhere. Like just Google like Pokemon EX and just look at these cards at some point, because it's mind blowing that this is where it's become. This is what's become. And the final thing I wanted to touch on, have you guys heard of the stream on competition that Twitch is doing?
No.
I haven't yet. No.
Okay. So Twitch is doing this thing that on paper sounds awesome, right? It is a game show kind of a deal, competition thing that is, they've selected like 15 streamers kind of all different categories. Like there's some like cooking people, there's some people that are like there's a girl who just does basically like Sims streaming. There's just more traditional gamers. There are people who do like woodworking. There's a piano player, like all kinds of different streamers, all different like community sizes and stuff. They brought them together and they're doing like a kind of survivor type competition. Like people are getting voted off every week, and the winner at the end, the last person standing, will get like, I think it's like $5,000 a month for so many months. Like it ultimately ends up being like about $60,000 or something is the grand prize. So like the streamers are like fairly small. So like I watch Wavy, who's the one streamer, and he's in Stream One, and like he usually when he's streaming has about like 100 people watching. So like he's kind of medium sized as far as streaming goes. So on paper that all sounds cool. Like it sounds really awesome doing this thing, bringing exposure to people that are streaming on Twitch that you might not know about. But in practice, it has been terrible, and I just had to vent about this for a second.
Go for it.
So they do these competitions every week that all the streamers have to do, which granted is hard because you're bringing together so many different types of people, right? Like this lady cooks and this dude plays Fortnite. How do you make them compete in any way, right?
Yeah.
And they haven't figured out how to do it because the first challenge was basically growth in your stream, kind of. So it was just sort of like, you were here and then you were here, so whoever got the biggest change wins. The second week, the challenge was what they called Pixel Hunt. And this took advantage of like the Twitch extension stuff. Basically, it is a grid full of tiny little pixels, and every 60 seconds, you as the viewer can click on one of the pixels to paint it a certain color. Or as your 60 seconds, you can vote for one of these 3 power-ups that then the streamer can fire off that do more, that cover more area, right? So that might be like a 10 by 10 grid or something that will paint all those pixels. The goal being that you find one golden pixel that's hidden within this entire pixel hunt. So basically you need a bunch of people in chat all actively voting every 60 seconds so you can efficiently cover this board to find a single golden pixel. It is as boring as it sounds and as mind-numbing as it sounds.
Oh, no.
So I was watching Wavy try to do his pixel hunt, and it's, he normally is playing video games, and he's animated, and he's rapping, and doing all kinds of fun stuff, and he's just, like, sitting, just, like, head in hand,
No.
because they've been pixel hunting for, like, an hour at this point, and they have another one to start in like 20 minutes, and he's just like, "Yep, everyone keep voting for Pixel Storm. Yep, just vote for Pixel Storm. Yep, all right." And so
that's important. It's not like something you can juggle while doing what you would normally do.
No, because it takes up the whole screen too. So like I can move it around because it's a Twitch extension, but it still takes up the entire stream. And then so basically they take all these disparate creative streamers and then force them all to do the same thing for no reason for an entire week. And then the competition this week is a little bit better, but still very dumb. It is it was just announced a few minutes ago. It is that you have to find someone in your community and nominate them as your kind of representative. They'll go compete in a Gang Beasts tournament, and if they win, then you win the competition. So you pick like a champion
tournament.
Yeah, so that's a video game. So Gang Beasts is a party-based video game. It's kind of like a physicsy wrestling type game. So you can grab people and throw them, and like, it's very like physicsy and weird, and like lots of chain reactions and stuff happen. So again, you might not even be a video game streamer, but you have to find someone in your community to represent you in a video game tournament. And again, that doesn't really like I mean, you can turn that into content for your channel, I guess. Like you can like, hey, let's run a tournament, or like, let's interview people, or however you want to do it. But like the end result is, okay, well then this game tournament is happening that sort of determines my win or loss that has nothing to do with me.
In my mind, it's somebody like Ron Swanson who does woodworking going against somebody like you that does like magic, and being like, okay, so like today, apparently, instead of making this chair like we would normally do, we're going to be staring at the computer
trying to get this power up.
Yes, 100%.
And that
Yes.
sounds absolutely miserable.
Though I don't want to step. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I don't know, but if this is Twitch's attempt to broaden the horizons of viewers, I haven't heard you yet mention Summit or Lyric or
all the classic.
Right. If it's their attempt to throw some attention to, high-end streamers who maybe aren't in the top 5, aren't in the top 10.
Yeah.
If it's their attempt to cast a spotlight out onto some top tier, but maybe the not elite, then, good for them. Good for them to showcase some folks who maybe wouldn't necessarily get the attention.
Yeah, definitely.
Outside of the normal promotions.
Yeah, and that's why I was so excited about it, is because, I'm not exactly the target demo for most of people streaming on Twitch, right? Like, I'm not into that type of stuff, right? Like, I just don't care. I want to see the interesting people. I want to see the people doing cool things. So Stream On seemed cool because, I was gonna all right, let's have the people who are awesome but maybe don't have the audience. Let's float them to the top, right?
Right.
But in actual practice, it's like, let's float them to the top and then grind them under our thumb until they're all pixel hunting for hours on end. In practice, it's been so sad because I had such high hopes for what it was going to be, and it's just not that in any way. And the hosts of Stream On, they work at Twitch, and you can tell that they are very passionate about what it is they're trying to do, but boy, are they just charisma holes, just terrible. It's this weird, they're trying to be a very polished show, and it's just, it doesn't work. So much of it doesn't work.
So maybe it needs some work. Maybe it's the heart of the idea is good, but
I think so.
It needs some retooling. It needs a little more. Needs some work. Needs some
DLC update.
New iterations.
I 100% think that it needs the same treatment that Sea of Thieves gets. Yes. Just listen. Here's what you do. Just add more pirates in both of them. Just if you had more pirates. Just make it suck less. That's really all we want out of both things. So that's been my general disappointment over the past couple weeks, is the continued just terribleness of Stream On. Anyway, so that's me. Scott, what have you been into?
So I've totally gotten sucked into a new game. Not even new. It's a game called Thimbleweed Park. And just to set it up real quickly, we've got a female protagonist who's a redhead and a male protagonist who's a brunette, and they're supposedly with the FBI.
Okay.
If you're noticing some correlations to the X-Files, I don't think it's very. I can't even say thinly veiled. It's not even. They're not even trying very hard to set it apart from X-Files, from Twin Peaks, from.
That's fantastic.
Name your. But I like that they've. So it's a game I've been playing on the Switch, and it's a throwback to some text-based adventure games. Choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Here's some actions that the player have been given. And do you look at the book? Do you pick up the book? Read the book? Is this a good action? Is this a bad action?
Yeah, it looks very much like classic, LucasArts
go into the
text adventures.
Yeah. You go into the kitchen. And knowing what you know about this type of game, you have to open every cupboard. You have to look in every drawer.
Okay.
Turn the faucet on. Turn the faucet off. You have to. It's one of those. You have to touch everything. You have to feel out every action. Anything you have the possibility of doing, You have to try out because that's how you progress. That's how you move to the next. You're given you start out with 2 playable characters. You're given additional characters as you progress through the game. It's a fun X-Files, Twin Peaks, old, very Commodore 3. They even make the Commodore 64 jokes. They make the Apple IIe jokes. It's a very 8-bit, old school. If you remember the if-then statements of the previous games, this is a game for you. It's a fun. Just try it out, and it's on the Switch. And so, in addition to kind of itching that old school vibe, you also get the chance to have, it's not 4K, it's not HD, it's a very pixelated art style, but it's fun. And it calls back to that old style of gaming that we all enjoy. And so, Thimbleweed Park, if you get a chance to check it out, to totally jump in. I can't remember now. I was going to check it out before the stream. I can't remember if it's available through Steam. For sure, it's available through the Switch. So if you get a chance.
It is. It says it's on. Yes, it's on Steam. Yeah, it's on Steam,
Okay.
Good Old Games, Xbox One, the App Store. So it's on iOS even, PS4. It's on Android. It's on the Switch. It's basically everywhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And I think one of the really... The writing is important for these types of games.
Yes, that make or break for
Where
sure.
like if you're provided an action and you're given 3 options, they have to be kind of funny. Like even the one you're going to choose, it can't be 2 realistic options and the funny option that they're just throwing away. Like they all have to be, like the writing has to be throughout, whether it's the option you choose or not. And I think they're really tapped into that. Thimbleweed Park, they really, whoever and I'm sorry, I can't remember the directors or the writers at the moment.
It's from Ron Gilbert and Gary Winnick. Those are the 2 guys who created Monkey Island and Maniac Mansion.
Oh, Monkey Island! I do.
So it makes perfect sense why this game is this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is very funny. It is. I want to know what the next, each piece of the story that I put together, each step that I complete, I want to know what the next one is, partly because I want to know the punchline.
Nice.
I want to know the next joke. I want to know the next punchline because of what's been set up previously. So, yeah, it's good.
I'm reading the Nintendo Switch page for it right now, and it says
sure.
There's a bullet point that says a joke every 2 minutes ... guaranteed, and then there's an asterisk, and at the bottom it says not a guarantee.
No, it's a guarantee. No, take back the asterisk. That is really... The asterisk is only for the dumb people. If you're dumb and listening to the Pretty Dece podcast, I'm sorry. This game isn't for you if you're stupid. If you're not stupid, it's good.
This game is not for you if you're stupid. We're sorry.
Sorry. Bad. Things that I've been watching, Mr. Robot, is... of all the places, USA. I watched so much Law and Order. Before the podcast, before internet, before anything. I watched so much Law and Order, and I watched it on USA, but now
you're
USA
watching
has come
actual TV and not just...
And I really... Yeah, and I wasn't even... I almost didn't take a chance on this show, but it's really good.
So
the writing is good.
What season are you on right now?
I'm almost to the end. I'm almost to the end of the second season.
Okay.
I'm almost to the point of having to drop actual Pazoozas for Amazon. It's a techno, very tech savvy, suspenseful thriller. A lot of I don't want to give away too much. But there's a lot of parallels to the Fight Club type storyline. There's a lot of I think people who actually know technology, I don't know a lot, but I know a little bit. I know enough to be intrigued by the show. And I think that they definitely scratch that itch.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm very ashamed that I have not, seen anything past season 1 of Mr. Robot, because I watched season 1 as it was coming out, which I never do with TV, and I loved it. And then season 2 started, and I didn't get started with it, and then I just never caught back up. So I'm so behind. It's a thing that I want to get caught back up on because season 1 was so incredible. And yeah, like as someone who is in the technology stuff and is into development, like they get a lot of that stuff pretty right. Like it's because most shows are so groan worthy when they get into like how actually that stuff works. And Mr. Robot's not like it fits. It all makes sense. It's all cool. And yeah, like you're right. Like very Fight Club-esque.
There's
very like
Tyler Durden makes an appearance. For all of those who are curious, if you enjoy Tyler Durden, please dive in.
Right, and like unreliable narrators and all that jazz. It's
Yes.
it was so good. Yeah, like I'm knowing what happens in season 1. I'm so excited to find out where they go from that. And I can only imagine, but. Yeah, fantastic show, and like I said, I'm very ashamed that I haven't picked it back up.
I think one of the things I really appreciate about the show that's maybe different from other shows that I've watched is they don't wait till the very last episode to really hook you in.
That's
true. There's a twist and a turn mid-season. You gotta watch episode 5. You've built a little bit of suspense and a want to know what happens, and they don't make you wait 12 hours to the very end.
Yeah.
You get some twists and turns as you go. The story keeps progressing. It keeps sucking you in, keeps the interest and the fascination alive to where, and there is a payoff. It's not that was the end of the season. I got to watch episode 1 to really be fulfilled. No, there's a heightened what happened at the very end. It's pushing you through to find out what happens next.
Yeah,
kind of disappointed that you haven't watched the season 2. What is wrong with you?
I know. Because again, this is why I don't watch TV as it's happening, because it ends and you're like, holy cow, this is going to be amazing when it comes back on. And then it comes back on and you're like, oh, like I kind of forget what happened at the end. Like maybe I want to go back and rewatch, and then I never do. Like I need TV to be in just bingeable format where I never have to wait a week between episodes or longer.
Right.
But yeah, like it definitely does the like, it doesn't just do the cliffhanger. It does sort of like the payoff, and then you're left wanting to know then what are the implications and like where does that go? What does that mean? And yeah, it's really well done. It's a really like artistic show as well. Like it's really wonderfully shot, and they do some really cool stuff like musically even. Like it's across the board just great. Just really great.
And I think, one of the things we talked before the show started, what Netflix is doing, what Hulu is doing, USA has always been the Law and Order channel.
Yeah, Blue Skies.
How
network.
many different episodes of Law and Order? But I've just been really surprised at the writing, the acting, the storytelling of the show, the fact that it's on USA. I was really, if you would have said this was an HBO show, if this was a Showtime show, something more prestigious than the USA that we've become accustomed to.
Definitely, yeah.
I would have totally bought it, but it's interesting that that's where it's come from.
Yeah, it's from the network that does Chrisley Knows Best, if you know what that is.
Yes, for sure.
Someone at that same company said yes to both of those shows, and that's just bizarre. Yeah.
And the last piece that I really wanted to share was, I talked about it a little bit in our looking forward to 2018 Annihilation. It was a a book series that I really enjoyed. There was a trilogy. The first book was Annihilation. They included a movie now with Natalie Portman, and in the podcast, I had voiced some concerns about it being a love story, and it being a horror movie. And despite what I saw in the preview, I was really pleasantly surprised how closely to the source material it stuck.
Oh, okay. That's
that
pleasant.
It wasn't. They didn't turn it into a romance story. It really was about the protagonist and her journey. It really was about the different events and how they affected her, how her character changed from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. I don't know. I was a little sad about. It didn't seem. If I were a betting man, I would guess that they would not make the next 2 installments.
Yeah, I don't think this one did amazingly well, right? Yeah.
Being Artisan, I'm going to be disappointed because I think they really did try to A, make a fun story, B, make a story that stuck to the source material. I think Natalie Portman did a great job. I had a good time at the movie. Despite its differences from the book, it was really fun. I think anyone who read the book was probably not disappointed. Anyone who watched the movie, please go read the book and the trilogy that follows. It's good. It fits. It doesn't. It's not so. I didn't walk out of the movie thinking I was really let down. As a fan of the book, I was disappointed. I wasn't. It was a little bit different. I'm not going to say that it was wholly stuck to the source material. It did its own thing, but it didn't divert so much to be distracting. And so anyone who's listening to this, I hope you'll watch the movie. I hope you'll read the books. It was good work.
So I actually read Annihilation while I was on vacation. The book, the first one. I haven't read
What'd
the
you
other
think?
two.
Did you like it? Was it good?
So I have weird mixed feelings about the book. It was wholly not what I expected going in, which is not a bad thing. I liked it. I will definitely say that I liked it. It was one of the weirder books I think I've ever read. Like, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, like, you never find out the name of the character that the book is
There
about.
is no proper name.
No, there are no like names. You don't find out anyone's name in this book. And you never it's intentional. Like, it's written this way. Like, you never really get to a point where you like commiserate with her or can put yourself in her shoes. Like, she makes weird decisions that you wouldn't make, and again, there's reasons for that. It was bizarre, I think, and I think that I was setting myself up for like, oh, this is crazy, this tension's building, things are happening. Maybe there's going to be like some crazy, like, everything is revealed moment at the end. And I should have known going in, like from where the book was going, like that wasn't going to happen. So you get kind of like a melancholic end to the book that fits the rest of the book. But for me, it was a little like, I closed it and I'm like, but the first thing I closed the book, I like turned and I was like, well, that book was dumb. Because it felt like such an unsatisfying ending. But thinking back on it now, like, there's a lot of really awesome stuff going on in that book, and I really like specifically how it's written, because it's when you realize that, you're not going to get any like proper names and stuff, you start reading the first few pages and you're like, how is he going to do this for an entire book? And then it's super successful at that. So I definitely want to read, Authority. I'm going to grab that one next and pick it up. And Annihilation is like the smallest, fastest read ever too. Like, I, finished it super quick. It is 208 pages according to the Wikipedia article. So I definitely need to see the movie now, because I'll actually know what they're going for with the movie. I think that people probably were going in based on the trailer thinking it was one thing and then getting this, which is vastly different than what the trailer seemed to be, implying. But yeah, especially like it not being a love story, like her relationship with her husband in the book is like odd, very odd. Like even, obviously things have happened, but like, yeah, just her like describing her marriage the whole time felt like super real in a way that like, movie marriages and stuff aren't. Oh yeah, it was, yeah. So I liked it. It's one of those like thinker books, like you can think back on it. It's not maybe like the most satisfying, like everything got wrapped up in a nice bow type of things, but it was certainly good. Yeah, I liked it.
I like that I think the thing that I came away from with the movie was I didn't feel like it tried to overreach. It didn't feel like it was trying to answer questions that the book didn't answer. It asked a lot of questions. It didn't answer a lot of them.
Yeah, because the book,
which was great,
definitely poses a lot of like scenarios and stuff.
And that's what gets answered in the second book and the third book. Like there's a trilogy.
Oh, okay. So that actually
to it. So there's more. And if I were a betting man, I would say that the second and third movies probably aren't going to be made. It was in the theaters a very short time. Yes, it had Natalie Portman. Probably didn't get the support that it needed, but I'm so glad that they I don't know if you saw the movie, but the swimming pool. Oh God, that was exactly
how they'd like written it in the book.
That scene wasn't even in the book, but just
it was described enough times
growth.
Though. Like
the growth, how does that I just keep thinking about that Donald Rumsfeld quote which I know is just ridiculous in politics and so far away from the story, but we don't know what we don't know, the unknown unknowns. The theme of this story is we don't know what we don't know. And I thought the movie did a really good job of sticking to that. And I really enjoy the books for that theme. Mm-hmm. We have so much sci-fi of explaining the world, and I love world building in sci-fi.
Oh, and I
love getting the whole picture. And this story, this particular book is we don't know. We keep asking questions, and they do such a good job of answering a couple of questions, and then asking more questions. We get to the end, and we don't know, and you're left to kind of fill in your ideas or just keep asking more questions. And I really like that.
And the narrator is written in such a way that it's like she's so matter of fact, and she'll just say things that you're just like, what are you talking about? And then it'll just be like, she'll just move on and be like, yeah, it's like, of course, like, of course that's a thing that would happen.
Yeah.
You're like, what? So yeah, that's cool. I'll grab the second novel in the series this weekend and start reading it for sure. Because it had its hooks in me for sure. Cool. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear the movie's good as well.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Awesome. Why don't you tell me about you went to a Comic-Con recently? Let's talk about that.
I went to a con I had never been before. I don't know that I did the con justice. So I live in the Northwest. And Emerald City Comic-Con is a yearly event. My partner is good friends with an artist in Michigan who every year has managed to jury into the Artist Alley.
Nice.
So a portion of the con is dedicated to comic artists, and they don't just take anyone. You have to send some work. They have to review it and say, to kind of weed through some of the... I think there is a level of quality that they expect, but there's also a level of there's a level of storytelling. There's a level of effort. It's not just can you draw muscles good.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there's does your work inspire people to ask what's happening in the piece that you've provided? Is there a level of wonder and expectation in what you've provided? And my partner's friend from Michigan has been going a couple of years, and it's always been, yeah, you're going to the thing. That sounds great. And now that I'm a part of a reputable podcast,
That's us.
I felt the need to partake and see what it's all about. And so I did spend a fair amount of time at the con. There is an artist alley. People who have juried into, people who have submitted some work and asked a panel of artists, you know, I'd like to participate. And so there's some subjectivity to their work, and also a main stage where the Marvels and the Dark Horses and the DCs and the Funkos of the world kind of get a pass. If you're big enough in the comic world, you get a chance to showcase some of the work that you're doing. And the idea is that you would bring something new, something people haven't seen on the internet, live, paper that you can review, personas that you can interview, in addition to some actual panels. Panels about, and I feel bad I didn't get to any panels. Part of my participation was this friend. I was kind of the sandwich runner, you know. I would go to Jimmy John's and I would get lunch. I would go to the bathroom and fill up the inking accoutrement. The artist alley itself was a really interesting place. Fans of work could go to a particular artist. I saw Stan Sakai, like right there in the flesh.
And
he is. I've watched so much Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay,
and
got it.
The spin-offs of, and he was right. Like he looked. I've seen pictures, and he looked just exactly as I'd imagined him in the flesh, 10 feet away. And I didn't because he was going to lunch, and I didn't want to bother him. He's already bothered so much. But artists like that in the flesh, at the vendor, at their booths, that fans could interact with and share that experience with the artist to say, oh my gosh, I've been reading your work since I was 12 years old, or, you know, you've been such an influence on my own work. It was a really cool thing, the Artist Alley, and in talking to some of the artists who were there, who have done this as part of their regular calendar routine, that's not necessarily the same at every con. You know, some cons put more of an emphasis on Artist Alley, some of them do less. I lucked out and was given a badge that said Artist Alley or Speaker.
Nice.
And so I felt a little guilty. I was watching vendors, and they were being extra nice to me. You know, they would see my designation, like, "Oh, you're special."
Oh,
like I'm just the sandwich guy. Just, so
in that
relief guy.
in that vein, like I full disclosure now, sometimes get into cons as press because of Pretty Dece. and it is I will turn my badge upside down so like, because it's so
into my shirt.
It's so awkward, like yeah, it's a weird thing. Yeah,
but I got my very own bathroom, which I didn't have to wait in line, which is very
nice.
But the folks there were extremely nice, extremely supportive of fellow artists. You know, when I forgot to hide my badge, they would strike up conversation. and not that they weren't welcoming to anyone who showed some interest in their work. But I found myself kind of gravitating towards that artist alley. There was just a lot of really, you could see really passionate folks,
Mm-hmm.
people who really were trying to network and find a place for their art, and beyond the whatever we might think, all three of us, I think, have a real love for Marvel and DC and the universes they've created and the heroes that have come out of them. And these are the same folks with a real talent for conveying some stories, conveying different art pieces, conveying different characters, wanting to break in. And it was just really fun seeing their energy for the comic,
Mm-hmm.
their energy for the genre. I actually picked up a couple of pieces, picked up some prints. I know you were asking about prints, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I will work on getting you some of those, because there's some. It makes me curious how is it that an idea like Deadpool gets through? I mean, I know we're talking about Stan Lee and a million years ago. I'm curious about how ideas come through, because I saw a lot of really interesting, fascinating characters in ink, in color, that I hadn't seen before, and I'm wondering those folks, what avenues they might have to break through. But it was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time in Artist Alley. I spent some time in the main exhibit floor, seeing all the cool. There, I kind of one side is there's apparently an R2-D2 group in the Pacific Northwest that their club, their push is to create robots, and they've done just amazing, from the logistic to the aesthetic to the
it's
you
like
were mentioning
it's like mechanical robotic cosplay, kind of, right? Like
it's so like people put so much work into cosplay, but then to tie in the technical and electrical, the robotics of it, to not just have the costume for themselves, but to put that on the character that they then wheel around the con it's pretty great.
That's awesome. So you're mentioning, like, you're seeing all these, like, independent artists who haven't had a big break, but like have kind of like amazing stuff, and like how do they get the big break? And like I remember having a moment like that with music when I was pretty young. Because like you hear music on the radio and it's like, okay, this is the good stuff. And I remember there was a website at the time, and I forget the name, but it was essentially independent artists could like upload their own songs, and it was like they could like float to the top and you could discover music and stuff. And I remember first hitting that site thinking like, oh, well, this is all going to be garbage, because if it was good, these people would have music contracts and would be on the radio and stuff, right? And I remember like having a moment of discovering like, wow, this like random band that like no one's ever heard of is incredible. Like, this is the coolest song I've heard all year. And having that like, wow, like creativity and like artistry can happen independently of success, which is an interesting thing. And like, you hope that it goes hand in hand, but there's so much more to getting a contract and getting in front of people. And like, you definitely see some of that stuff where it's like, the talent here is ridiculous, and you desperately want stuff like that to like win out. But it doesn't always, sadly. It definitely sounds like that your artist alley was large and like and very fleshed out, and I've definitely been to cons where it's much smaller. I've kind of seen like all the spectrums basically of like artist alleys, but it is super fun just to like wander through. Like, it sounds like you had a really cool version of it where you were a bit more entrenched, kind of, you know what I mean? Like you were able to be in there, but it's still fun to like wander through and like talk to people, like like talk to the person who drew the art that you're staring at. The table is like really neat. Or like, you see like, for example, like the one con I went to, which I am staring at a mouse pad that he did now, and I'm blanking on his name, so that's a bummer. But he's done a bunch of art for Hearthstone cards, and it's so cool being like, oh my gosh, you're the person who animated like this amazing card. Like we're like flipping through the art, being like, oh yeah, that's that card. And yeah, it's just like it's really neat. And even stuff like like Magic conventions. So when they have like Grand Prix and tournaments and stuff, I will often go to those when they're around, even if I'm not playing in the main event, just to do side events and like kind of do their vendors and stuff. And they'll usually have like an artist and stuff there as well. And it's the same thing of like, you've drawn, painted, whatever, you've illustrated like some of my favorite cards in Magic, these like iconic cards, and you're sitting in front of me and I'm getting you to sign a play mat that you illustrated. Like, it's a super cool experience for sure.
Sure.
And then you mentioned not getting to do any of the panels and stuff. Like, those are always very easy to not get to do. Like, I always feel like every time I go to a convention, it's like, oh yeah, I wish I would have done more of those. But they are super fun. So anyone out there listening, if you are going to a convention, like, do yourself a favor and check out like the panel schedule ahead of time. And if there's something that interests you, make sure that you like go make the time to do it, because it's usually just a good time to sit down and rest. But then it's also like always more fascinating than you think it's going to be. Even like there's really cool stuff, and like all those cool people you're seeing out on the floor. The panels are their time to go get to like, tell you about the cool things that they do, and like, and that's really fun for sure.
Yeah. I didn't end up going. So the 2 days I went, Saturday and Sunday, I didn't go to any panels. There were a couple I was kind of looking to. There was one on podcasting,
Nice.
incidentally, and there was one on world building, and I thought that these panels being kind of devoid of the celebrities might be a little bit easier to do. But A, I had some sandwich getting responsibilities for the artists who were giving me my ticket, and B, there were just lines. Like, no matter what the panel was, it's a really popular con. There were folks there from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Portland, Oregon, and California, and I mean
probably
the
all over the
reach-
country. Yeah, like
the reach of Emerald City was pretty. It wasn't just Seattle. It definitely reached out to a lot of the region.
It's
so
definitely
was-
like one of the larger cons. Like, it's not a San Diego Comic-Con level, it's not New York level, but it's up there, right?
It's
It's
big.
one that people
It
have
was
heard
big.
of. Yeah, it's definitely a larger.
It was a really good time, and so I don't feel bad that I missed out on the cons. I got a lot out of talking with artists. I got a lot out of walking the main exhibit hall. One of the pictures I did post was Weta Workshop, which is the folks who have worked on, their big claim to fame is the Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, and the photo. I don't know if you want to include it in your YouTube version. I wish I had a better photo. He was so like, I wish you both could have seen the guy. They pulled a guy out of the crowd, said, "Hey, everyone raised their hand." And they pulled this guy out of the crowd, and they made him an orc in. It was a while. I mean, I walked back and forth between looking at the main exhibit hall and coming back to the studio, couple of hours, and they made him to look like an orc. And I wish you could have seen the moment where they held the mirror in front of his face. He was so surprised, and I think the most amazing thing to me was that moment of, yes, he was surprised, and he could convey that through so much makeup.
You could tell that he was surprised.
Yeah, that facial, it wasn't, I mean, it was, anyone could put on a rubber mask.
Sure.
That you buy from Party City, but you can't convey an emotion through that mask.
Yeah.
this was makeup that was arranged in such a way that he could convey anger, he could convey happiness, he could convey surprise. I was 40 feet away, and I saw the moment where he looked in the mirror, and there was genuine, oh my God, what did you do to me? And I saw all of that. And again, Weta, W-E-T-A, workshop, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. It's too many to remember.
Yeah, they've done a bunch.
Spectral. Go to their website. Really, look at their. It's the nerd utopia. It's the heaven. All of us nerds die, and we go to their heaven. This is their design and effects. It's really something what they put together, and they pulled this guy out of the crowd and said, "Here, we're going to make you an orc," and it's pretty cool.
I'm looking at their site now, and they even worked on like Thor Ragnarok, and they made like a bunch of the armor and stuff. Like they do a ton of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
super super cool. And yeah, I think the cool thing about conventions, like, you know, you can do them any way you want, right? Like if you want to go and sit in panels all day, that's awesome. You had a great con. If you want to go just do the show floor, great. You had an amazing time. Like there's usually so much stuff to do that yeah, you can just sort of do it however you want, and it's great. Yay, conventions.
I had a really good time. I'd never been before, to see so many people in one place sharing the passion, whether they were a vendor, whether they were just an attendant, showing excitement for the thing that they love the most.
Yeah.
It was really a good time.
I'm looking forward to, so we, here in Indy, we have the Indie PopCon coming up, which is a kind of like pop culture, like YouTube streamer type focused convention, but still has like some comics and stuff. And then we have the Indie Comic-Con coming up, which is a great little show that has grown like tremendously since it started. So those are both coming up pretty soon. And then of course Gen Con in Indy is like massive. It's the biggest gaming convention in the country. So that's always like just mind-numbing how much stuff is at Gen Con. So yeah, I'm excited that we're getting into like con seasons and stuff around here. It's getting close. So very cool. All right, so we're getting a little long here, but let's talk about Black Panther.
Thank God. Yes.
Ross, tell me about Black Panther. Did you like it?
Did I like Black Panther? Absolutely. Because this movie did a phenomenal job at so many different things. Not only was it an enjoyable movie, if you enjoy going to the movies, it also brought back an old formula in a new way. So at the beginning, I said the 007 podcast from my point of view. Through about like a third of the way into this movie, I kind of saw what was happening. And in my opinion, anyway, Black Panther is the James Bond of the Marvel Universe. And I loved that sort of setup of how it wasn't just like, it's not like a Tony Stark character where he is everything to the superhero, right? Like he designed it, he invented it, he has Jarvis, and he did all of that. Like he's
got his cue. Yeah.
Yes, but like Black Panther is like, okay, you're the person on the front lines, literally, but you have this whole team. Then like this whole, it was bigger than just like an institution like MI6, but it was like this whole country is behind you. And I really enjoyed that take on it of like you had, the scientist, it was his sister, but he plugged in as like the ruler, but it was like council sort of thing. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, of like the techie, because they even did like the Q rundown, right? Of like, oh, what new things do you have for me?
Yep.
Like, oh, that's going to come up later in the movie.
I was amazed at that point. I'm glad they did it. I was amazed that they did it that way, that they made it such a Q rundown, because it's like it's very clearly what they're doing, like it's very clearly where they get that inspiration. So I was glad that they didn't try to like hide that in any way. They just like owned up to it, like no, it's basically Q, like here's some gadgets, let's check these out. That was very cool. And yeah, I agree, I hadn't thought about that in terms of like the whole country kind of being behind him, even down to the, this is a council that makes decisions instead of just like the king. Yeah, that definitely gives Black Panther a different feel for sure. Like he's always been the person in the comics too that like, I have to do what's best for like Wakanda, I have to think about Wakanda. But this movie, you got to see why. You get to see like what he's protecting, which is cool.
Yes. I thought all of the actors were great, and Michael B. Jordan again just keeps coming back to the forefront in my movie-going experiences. I haven't seen like that did really well, and he keeps popping up as like a super solid actor that I think is going to become more and more.
This was the first time that I'd really like noticed him in something, I guess I'll say. But gosh, was he good? Like he was incredible. He was definitely like the standout for me in the film, I think. I mean, like everyone was really good, but he was maybe my favorite coming out of it.
I really enjoyed Magneto has been one of my favorite antagonists in superhero movies. The idea that a superhero villain can have some real legitimate motivations for doing what they do.
Right. Like there's a reason he has beef, and it's not just to take over the world.
Yeah, maybe they go about it the wrong way, but it isn't all about it isn't just evil for evil's sake. It isn't just power for power's sake. Like there's a story, there's a reason, there's a motivation there that I can kind of get behind. Like not that I'm not behind the antagonist, but it makes their cause, their story interesting. And when it clashes with the protagonist, there's that not only I'm fighting this evil in the world, but I'm fighting the aspects that, the ideas that I agree with that are embodied in this other antagonist. I have to reconcile within myself. Like there's a man versus man and man versus self kind of all wrapped into one argument that I really enjoy. The earlier, more simplistic maybe comic villains of I just want to be powerful because that's where I belong. This is a different take on that, and I really enjoyed that about the story.
Yeah, that's a really, really good way to put it. It makes the villains like hold water, right? Like their motivations. It makes them have motivations instead of just evil for evil's sake, and that definitely always makes the best villains. And when you start getting into this guy's motivations, start doing the flashbacks for his story, like you're rooting for him. Like there's a point where you're just like, yeah, like oh my gosh, just do this. And definitely he like takes it too far and goes the wrong way after that, but there's like a moment where you are so on his side with what's happening that it's really just wonderfully written in that regard. Yeah.
And I thought that they did justice to the antagonist then in having the protagonist reassess the stances and values that they then hold.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there's the closing scene at the end where they're at the United Nations, and like there's a definite deviation from the way that things have been done, whereas like other hero type movies where it's like we fought the big baddie and like we're our way was the right way and we won.
USA.
There's no sort of evolution of the character, which like I kind of get out of like a Superman type character, or Captain America could have been this way. But they do a good job of like letting him reflect. But in this one, I think it deviated into a completely new feeling at the end of that movie, where it was like, oh, like some stuff went down, and we need to assess how that affects us moving on. Not just like the events happen and then you forget about it, but like this shaped, I think, the Wakandan universe as it moves forward.
Yeah. That's kind of that like man versus self wrapped up in the man versus man that Scott was talking about. It's like, you know, like I beat you, you were the bad guy, I beat you, but like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like we're going about this the wrong way. Like let's change this. You know, that's the meeting of the goddess in the story circle, right? It's the like, okay, so I've returned from my journey having changed. What have I learned from this whole thing? And it's not
I need to take some of this with me. I can't just
right.
You're defeated over there. I need to take some of what you believed, and I gotta incorporate it into what is good for me and for the community.
Right. It's not just like Metropolis is saved, throw a party. Yeah, it's like no, it's great. Like we made it through it, but let's learn these lessons. Yeah, super cool. There's so many like little pieces of Black Panther that we could talk about for hours. Not to steal your thunder, Scott, but one thing that you wrote down that was very important as well to me in this movie, and it's almost jarring when you see this because and it's sad, but like the fact that we have these like incredibly strong female characters, like these just BA women who are at the forefront of this movie. The majority of like the like people who are fighting and stuff in this film are female, that they're not sexualized in any way, right? Like
no,
I don't have like armor that like perfectly, you know, accentuates my cleavage. I'm not showing like copious amounts of skin despite the fact that I'm, you know, fighting with swords. It's like I am reasonably dressed. I'm not here just for the sake of anyone to hit on. I'm a warrior first. Like I'm defending my country. My opinions matter. And I'm also female, and that felt like such this like departure that we treated female characters like human beings in this movie, and that made me sad for all other movies while I was watching this.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was such a huge point in this, you know, it's such a big thing.
That casino scene, I know it was kind of a throwaway scene in the middle of it didn't add so much to the story, but just the idea that he was walking in and there were these two ladies with him, and it's the slow-mo, you know, I got images of Reservoir Dogs, you know, the black suits and the black ties and the white shirts walking, and the just badasses, and it was these ladies, and they were walking in, and yeah, I don't know, they were just these strong female characters that really contributed to the story. It wasn't just that they kicked ass. You know, what they stood for, how they interacted with other characters mattered to the story, and that they were females casting those parts, and it wasn't just dudes. I thought that for all of the press that the movie has gotten for being bringing African American issues to the forefront, I thought it just as much, and surprisingly so, at least to me, bringing aspects of female empowerment and just that ladies can be badass. Like I sent that message to you, Josh, after the movie, like, because I really did feel like Wonder Woman even earlier in the year, like the Robin Wright pen and just the badass ladies who are Amazons who had that great scene on the beach.
Yep.
Like they had this really amazing moment of, we are ladies and we are going to kick ass and you better watch out. And their moment in the sun, you know, I feel a little bad, but their moment in the sun was just so shortened by this. They were overshadowed by these great characters.
But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have like another representation that soon, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
And I like that there was the badass side and then the brainy side, and that they weren't mutually exclusive.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
In that. I thought that they wove that together of like the sister was both, you know, the Q character, and she had a role to play at the end in like fighting for what she believed in, and the same with the I guess the more female lead or the counterpoint to Black Panther, where it's like he becomes not the suave, smooth dude. Where the whole like he froze, didn't he? Like, oh yeah, he totally.
Yeah,
That was a fantastic scene of like I never freeze, and he gets there and he's just like stumbling over his words and becomes like that 14-year-old kid that we all were at one point, where you're like shuffling your feet and like the words they don't come out, and yeah. I thought that was great. They allowed for like the characters to have funny moments and very human moments, but while still like not relying. I don't think one character relied on another to define themselves. Each one was really well defined in its own right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And can I just ask, was Andy Serkis in a suit for this? Because the dude was buff.
I think he took drugs. I can't.
Like, how was that Andy Serkis? Right? Because it was like, Andy Serkis, but like, how was that Gollum? How was that dude Gollum?
He was huge. He was huge.
I
Because it was
actually,
the first thing I walked out of there being like, was Andy Serkis green screen for this? And
He's on
like,
drugs.
Christy didn't know. Like, it was just, I don't know.
so
He's
I
on legit
I
drugs.
just had to do the quick Google to figure out which one of the characters was Andy Serkis, and you just blew my mind.
Yeah. Right?
I had no idea that was Andy Serkis.
Because I did a Google search. I was like, does Andy Serkis have a brother? That is just like, did he like cross-pollinate with The Rock or something? What happened?
Yeah, because I'm just gonna Google normal pictures of Andy Serkis now, real quick. Yeah, what happened?
What happened to Andy Serkis? And are we worried about him having some sort of aneurysm?
Right,
Because
is he just gonna
have some anger
explode?
issues? We're gonna point back to this. Yep. Yeah. Well, it's right there.
Oh man, that's
I
crazy.
feel like he is the abomination a little bit from the Hulk. I'm like, did we just juice Andy Serkis to the point where there's no return? Man?
He's
Josh,
like,
before we get too far away, one of
Yeah.
the comments that Ross made about the ladies involved in the film, especially the sister, revolving around technology. My partner turned me on to the New York Times article that I posted in our outline that Disney. There's been all kinds of controversy. Well, maybe they didn't donate enough, but they are putting $1 million towards science, technology, engineering, and mathematics for women, and almost kind of paralleling the movie.
wow,
of
that's cool. That's really cool.
putting some money where their mouth is, and whether we agree with whether that's enough for a movie that's obviously going to gross at least $1 billion. I mean, they're already at the 700 million mark. That's not including merchandising. That's not including follow-ups. Maybe this is a drop in the bucket, but it's at least something.
It's
They're at
more
least
than they
getting
had
pressure.
to have. Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting whether they're guilted into it or not. It's motivation to put money towards supporting women in technology, women in mathematics, and young girls. Specifically, the Boys and Girls Club is where the money's going. So if that can be something that can be linked in the video, but I think that's really encouraging that come hell or high water, we're push the companies who release movies like this to kind of give back.
Well, and put their money where their mouth is, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy to preach this in the film, but like, all right, well, now let's see it. That's cool.
Yeah, let's lay the groundwork and the roadmap for like how you could get into science.
Yeah.
And I think it's exciting how the sister really was like, it's mentioned in the article, but I really did think of Q, when she was showing the gadgets and the crazy weapons she had for the fists, and her character in general. There was a smart, capable woman in this role of technology that I thought was really cool, and I'm hoping we see more of that.
Yeah. And we mentioned the like representation, right, for like women and African Americans in this film, and just how important that is. Like, it's hard for us to even wrap our brains around that, I think, because we've been represented in everything we've watched forever since the beginning of time, right? Since we started partaking in media, and the idea that there are kids out here now that are watching, that can watch this movie and see someone that looks like them or has a background similar to them, being heroic, like doing the crazy stuff that happens in this movie is like incredible, like so heartwarming, because like even to compare it to me, like I was attracted to Spider-Man growing up because he was the like nerdy kid who didn't have friends in high school. Like I found someone who looked similar to me, like I was seeing myself on the screen, and that now, with Black Panther and stuff, like more kids can do that. More kids have, a mirror that they can kind of hold up and see themselves in is awesome. Like it's crazy that this exists for that. Yeah.
And the people that like would scoff and say like, no, like, it doesn't really play that big of a deal. So I work with students, like high school age students from time to time. And I'm in like the same work area, but they can't always see me. And so they end up having very candid conversations that I can kind of eavesdrop in because I'm supposed to be like present, but not seen sort of thing, so that they can explore and learn on their own.
Sure.
And it's interesting the conversations that have stemmed just out of this one piece of media, of like students latching onto that and finding an identity, and that it's okay to be like female and nerdy because because they saw it in a pop culture context. And
oh, that's awesome.
Like the conversations that have evolved out of that are really great. Or like students verbalizing to underrepresented students verbalizing to overrepresented or more commonly represented students, like what it meant and how it has influenced like their community and their home, and like to bring it, like if people say like, oh, this doesn't really matter, this is a movie, it's really dumb, but like it resonates in a different way than I think some people realize.
Yeah, than you can even know. Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
And yeah, it was very sobering to like hear this of like, I enjoyed the movie and like think of it from a certain point of view, and that's all well and good, but like hearing how it, like getting that human component of how it resonated with a young kid is real, was like, I wasn't expecting to be like caught off guard like that on it, and I kind of was, and was like sitting over there in the corner like, oh, all the feels just showed up.
Exactly. I also go ahead, Scott.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say the one other thing I wanted to interject about this movie is that I do hope that because of the popularity, because that the studios are seeing that there is some real, studios are in the business to make money, and I hope that they can see some opportunities there. I think back to Night Watch and the Watch movies of Sergei, and I'm gonna mess this last name up, Lukyanenko. It's a series of books. It was made into some movies. I hope that people will check them out because they really are Russian director, Russian casting, Russian actors, hearing different voices within the film medium. I think back to the Crouching Tiger, Hero, House of Flying Daggers era. The fact that Guillermo del Toro won an Oscar this year, that we're getting some more voices into the media that everyone is seeing. I think one of the exciting things about Black Panther was that nearly everyone saw it. It was on this big budget. It wasn't something that I had to go out and like research and find and spend hours on the internet trying to figure out what theater might be playing it. It got the attention and the backing and support that it needed, and I hope that continues for other types of voices, African American voices, women's voices, other cultures. I'm really excited to see, because look, I can only watch so many Michael Bay movies. Like, I really I need
Bailey just won. I'm good.
new and exciting and different. I mean, I don't think anyone could go in and watch Black Panther and say that wasn't different. That was so outside of what we had known before as a superhero movie.
Yeah, it really was.
And that's exciting. I want to see more. I want to see next. I want to see what's next.
Much like I'm like growing very bored with like the AAA games of like, the Call of Duties every year, like those types of games, and I want like weird new experiences. It's the same thing with that. It's like, this is different, this is new, this is exciting. It's, I can go see the same superhero movie, over and over again, but no, I want this instead. Like, I want a different take. I want to see different things, different people on the screen, and that's exactly what I want out of movies and out of games and stuff now. I loved in this, one thing we haven't touched on, that it was completely divorced from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, there were no other superheroes in this, because my big complaint with where the Marvel movies kind of went, like there's one thing I was going to pick out that I didn't like, in comic books, you always had your team up episode or team up issues. You always had like, the Avengers, but then they had their solo books, right? And like, Doctor Strange would not always be hanging out with the Defenders. He would be solving his own problems, and then he'd get together and, meet up with Silver Surfer and Hulk, and they'd do group stuff. And it seemed like, when they started mixing the characters in the Marvel movies, we got less of, now this is just a story featuring one of the characters, and it's going to be unique, and it's going to do things that only that character can do. Like Captain America Civil War is a perfect example. That was just an Avengers movie with the word Captain America on the front of it. And it was worse for it, I think. But this was like, they couldn't have told this story with anyone else because it wouldn't have made sense, right? Like, it was so ingrained in Wakanda, and like the nation was its own character in this movie. It was cool that they took a character and just kind of spun him out and told a story they could only tell with him. So I like that. So, we're going to get him mixed in with the rest of the Avengers. We're not missing out on any of that. We just got to highlight what makes him unique in his solo movie and kind of do it in a way that you don't have to know anything else going in. You don't have to have watched 30 other movies in order to get any of it. You can just enjoy it. And that's the thing that I think that, like, especially like Captain America Civil War is like a huge lack in the rest of the Marvel movie universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Black Panther. I can't wait till it comes out on video and stuff to watch it again, because it's so good. So good.
And it was super weird to have Martin Freeman with an American accent. Like, that was for the first little bit where he's in the movie, like, until they actually take him back to Wakanda. Like, his accent grated on my last nerve. So I was like, you just need to stop talking. You are Watson, and you fit in that, and you need to not have an accent. Like, he could have been British.
It was a bad American accent.
And that would have been fine.
So,
and that would have been okay. But that's like, your American accent is ripping me apart.
It's not even that it was bad. It was just, I can't, yeah, I agree.
It was that, it was one of those.
I can't handle you being not.
It's it's a voice coming out of a face that it should not come out of.
Yeah,
yeah. I love Mark Hamill, and I love Mark Hamill's Joker, but I have nightmares when Mark Hamill...
When you watch it, when you see his face.
Yeah. Like, when I watch him become the Joker.
It's bad. Yeah, it's real bad.
Like, I can't do it, and it creeps me out. And it was kind of the same thing in a different way, but they say, like, okay, so that's Martin Freeman, and that is some sort of Texas, Kansas hillbilly accent trying to come out. And I was like, you should have worked with Brad Pitt's dude. You should have worked with Brad Pitt's dude to form any sort of other accent.
Have you ever watched House, Ross? House MD?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Did you ever feel like with him that he was doing a bad accent, a bad American accent?
So I didn't watch any Hugh Laurie stuff until
Before.
after I'd seen him
So
as House.
I watched, I wasn't really like Googling Hugh Laurie or anything when I was watching House. I watched multiple seasons of House before even learning that he was actually British. And it was
you want to know the sad part where I realized he was British?
What?
It's because he is a pilot or like a spaceship dude in the really crappy Superman Returns movie.
Is he really?
I think he is an extra in that movie where like Superman comes back and like saves the space shuttle or something.
That's incredible.
And I was like, I think we like backed it up, and you don't see him for very long. But I was like, was that House? Did he have a British accent? And that led down this like Google tunnel of doom. Just like, oh my god, he was with Stephen Fry and all of this other
If you
stuff.
guys haven't seen a bit of Fry and Laurie, listen. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to the YouTube audience. Please, right now, stop listening. Hit pause. Wait, before I
Preferably
tell
while
you,
you're not
listen
driving.
to my instruction. Go watch a bit of Fry and Laurie. Any episode. Watch as many episodes as possible. It's so good. The two of them are hilarious.
Yeah, yes, they're a very good combo.
I think that led to it was one of those things where we were watching that really bad Superman movie on like FX or something in college, and that led to, wait, was that Hugh Laurie? Which led to like, oh, there's 15 minutes till I have to go to my 8 a.m. class. Crap.
Great.
After just like binging a bit of Fry and Laurie for that long. I should grab a coffee and go try to do chemistry. Didn't do so well on that test.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of right out to the plot of all these episodes I just watched instead of actually answering any of these questions. That seems a better way to do it. All right, gentlemen, I think that we're going to have to call it there. We have more things on the docket, but we will move those to the next episode. Yeah, that's going to do it for us. Thank you very much for being on the show, guys. And
Thanks, Josh.
thank you guys for... Yeah, it is good to be back. This was nice getting back into it.
What?
Thanks to you all out there for listening as well. Make sure that you listen and watch all of the daily Pretty Dece episodes that come out every single day. You can find those here on this YouTube channel. If you are listening to this in the podcast form, want to find the YouTube channel, visit prettydeceshow.com/video to get to the channel. Also, if you want to hear this in podcast form instead of video form, go subscribe to the podcast. Just search for Pretty Dece in all the various places where you get your podcasts. It's very simple. Also, we're available on the...
It's true. Even I figured it out.
Even Ross can do it. If Ross can do it, anyone can do it.
And a little fun tip that if you feel like, oh, I can keep up with it every day, so I put it in, like, subscribe to it so it all fills in throughout the week, and then my last day of, like, a long commute is on Thursday. And so coming home to, like, kick off my non-commuting for the next 3 days is I roll through all of the Pretty Dece episodes on the way home. And it's quite glorious.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to do it.
Playlist.
Nice little, 5 or 10 minutes every day. You store 5 of them up. You got yourself a full podcast there. You got yourself a stew going.
Just, definitely comes off as a cheesy plug, but it is definitely something I look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I see it come up on the Twitter feed and things of like what you've talked about throughout the week. I'm like, no, like it's Thursday is the day to like compress and to Pretty Dece your way into the weekend.
It's your point that you can like,
it's a verb now.
You just gotta go pretty decent. Exactly. I am going to a wrestling show tomorrow night, and I will be attending a press conference beforehand. So
Whoa.
that'll be I'll just go ahead and pencil that in to talk about next episode, because I'm
did
sure
you
that's
just
gonna
become legit?
We
Do you have a
need
press pass?
details. We need to know what happened.
I got invited to the press conference, Ross. Yes, I'm invited as press to the press conference.
We need the press pass. We need the picture of the
I don't think it's that serious. I don't think that there's going to be press passes. But it's
I
definitely.
think you should make one
You just show up with my own.
just so you
Come
can
on.
show it to people.
PDF.
Like,
We need
don't
the
worry
PDF
with the
for it.
press.
Yeah, like I didn't think you guys would have these, so I took it upon myself to make
A
my
little
own.
backwards R on there. That'd be great.
Anyway, gentlemen, let's give the people where they can hunt you down on the internet. Ross, where can the people find you?
So I'm on Twitter at LITU_87. Occasionally I stream, but it's not been at all a frequent thing lately. Mostly because I don't have games that are worth like
Worth playing.
streaming.
Yeah.
Like, it's really boring to watch me like just collect rocks or Korok seeds. So you don't want to do that. But occasionally I do that. But if you really wanted to watch these streams, I would suggest Scott's stream.
Indeed,
Scott.
which is a nice transition over to Scott.
Yeah, look at that. I'm working on it.
You can find me on Twitter at Schmizmar9. That's at SCHMIZMAR9. And the same broadcasting on Twitch, twitch.tv/Schmizmar9. Been playing some Thimbleweed Park.
Indeed.
Got some other things coming up in the hopper. So, yeah.
Lots of exciting stuff. And of course, you can follow myself and all of the postings of the day at Pretty Dece Show on Facebook and on Twitter. So again, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back in a couple weeks for episode 4, continuing more of this discussion. In the meantime, have a fantastic couple weeks, everybody, and we'll see you very soon. Peace. What's up, everybody? I'm Josh.
Oh my God, do it again. I'm sorry. Damn it, that's gonna be the promo. I was thinking about like what's gonna choose for the damn it.
It's you now. Yep. That was amazing. It was so like perfect. I thought it was on purpose.
What do you...
Oh.
All right.
I'll
Nailed
do
it.
next time. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
So good. All right, take two.